We learned a lot from the Big 12 this week, but did we learn there's a new champion in town named Utah? This is a Locked On Big 12 Locked On Utes crossover.
You are Locked On Big 12, your daily podcast on the Big 12 Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Monday, everybody. Welcome to a Locked On Big 12 Locked On Utes crossover. I'm Drake Toll from America's #1 Big 12 podcast, Locked On Big 12. That's JT Wistrcill of Locked On Utes. Thanks for making our shows your first listen every single day. It was the most impressive game on Saturday that the Big 12 played. It was Utah over UCLA, Big 10 versus Big 12. Is it indicative of a new champion? Is it too early to tell? Is BYU, Texas Tech? Do we see an Arizona State still in that race? And Iowa State looks really good too. We'll get to all of that, but we'll also hit TCU blowing out North Carolina tonight. It's formulaic. Like, there's an algorithm to prove that this is not going to be a close game, and the Horned Frogs and Sonny Dykes will win. Then we love college football. I don't know if ESPN does. FPI was released yesterday and has Texas at #1 again. If you hit subscribe, we get to keep our jobs. JT, we'll get to the other contenders of the Big 12 and how they looked this weekend, but let's go Utah. I mean, there's a reason that you're on the first crossover of the season. The Utah Utes look dominant.
They did. I mean, it was incredible. I mean, just a all-around dominant performance. I mean, over almost 500 yards of total offense for this Utah team. The third down numbers, Drake, were absolutely out of control. I mean, 14 of 16 on third down, and then the defense holding UCLA to 2 of 11 on third down. Just unreal. Jason Beck, Utah's offensive coordinator, who was very good with Devin Dampier at New Mexico last year. Those two were totally in sync. I mean, it's not just the difference of having spring ball because Nico and UCLA's offensive coordinator didn't, but it is also the fact that they were together for the past year. I think that really helped those two together, and they were miraculous. Devin Dampier, nearly 300 yards of total offense. Utah, the game plan was just insane. I mean, you had 3 different players for Utah made plays on defense and offense. So Utah was just doing all kind of wild things out there. Nico was not comfortable. He was off his game, but Utah really threw him off too. This is the most impressive win of the week and the most impressive performance by a Big 12 team in my eyes. And I do think, I'm not here to say that Utah is now the favorite in the Big 12, but I don't know how we can't watch that and say, okay, I do believe Utah is a contender in this conference, especially when we have teams like Kansas State looking as shaky as they did another week. I love the way that Utah looked. This team looks complete. They were absolutely dominant. And at the very least, Devin Dampier, I think, is legit.
Yeah, I said something on yesterday's show, and it was just me, so no one could push back. I want to give it to you. If you watched Texas Tech, if you watched Kansas, their first couple of games, if you watched BYU, I don't think, and I'm going to hold Iowa State out of this. They've beaten a Power 5 opponent, a conference opponent. I don't think we learned the ceiling of BYU or Texas Tech or Kansas. I think we learned the floor is not that. We raised the floor. If you are Kansas State, you have continued to lower your floor. You could now go 4-8, and no one would be shocked based on your performance. I'd be shocked if BYU went 4-8, just given they took care of business. Does it mean they won't go 7-5? No, that's still on the table. They played Portland State. Texas Tech played University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff. I just believe the floor has been raised. We proved you didn't get into a knockdown, drag-out overtime game. You proved you don't suck, but I'm not sure if I raised the ceiling on a couple other Big 12 contenders, Arizona State also in there.
Yeah, I mean, the Big 12, I thought, had a good week overall. A couple of bad losses, I will say, is too. Obviously, the Baylor one
had a great Saturday. The Big 12 had a great
Saturday. We'll focus it on Saturday too, right? But really quick, just one last thing on Utah. I mean, that's a Big 12 versus Big 10 opponent. Utah just pushed them around. I mean, oh my gosh, Utah's offensive line looks legit. It legitimately is, to me, a top 5, maybe even top 3 offensive line, and maybe even the best. I'm not ready to go there, but it was just remarkable what this Utah team was able to do, pushing teams around. And I was so impressed by what they were able to do in this game too. And I do feel like you said, very good Saturday for the Big 12 too, but we haven't seen the best version of a lot of these teams, right? But Utah is definitely part of the reason that the floor of this conference, to me, has been raised. And I look at teams like Utah, I look at teams like Iowa State right now, and I go, why can't they get in a game against a Big 10, an SEC opponent, and come out on top? I know Baylor didn't, but like we said, there were just some things like defensively there. Like Utah's not going to make the mistakes to me that Baylor's making defensively. And then on special teams, that's just not, I don't see that being an issue for a team like a Utah, like an Iowa State. So I do feel like the Big 12 has a couple teams this year that are capable of playing with the big dogs. I think that's exciting. The question will be how many of them are going to beat up on each other and maybe only one gets in again. But it would be great if maybe it is a Utah, Iowa State, maybe it's Iowa State, Texas Tech, whoever. If you could get two teams in the playoff, that would be big. But I do feel like there were a lot of positives for the Big 12, even on a week where you wish Colorado and, like you said, just Friday wasn't our night, Drake.
Yeah, Friday definitely wasn't, and even Cincinnati on Thursday. But luckily, Kansas State rallied, and now that's a W, and you add 1 point to that column. And Arizona State didn't look good, but they got a win. And Iowa State blew out South Dakota. I think they may be the second best Big 12. If we're doing Big 12 power rankings right now, it's Iowa State, Utah at probably 1 and 2 in there. And then from there, Texas Tech, BYU, Arizona State can clean things up in that 1 through 5 spot. But you're not seeing what was expected out of Kansas State. We didn't see what was expected out of Baylor. We didn't see very good performance from Colorado against Georgia Tech. And again, if we learned anything, the floor is not very low. That there is a high floor for BYU, a high floor for even West Virginia, a high floor for Texas Tech, we hope. And Arizona showed out against Hawaii. That bodes well for the Big 12 as we get further into non-conference play. Kansas, Missouri, we'll learn a lot about the Jayhawks this week as well. Coming up, TCU. Can they blow out Bill Belichick? Did we learn, thanks to Utah, the Big 12 is good in non-conference games against Power 4 opponents? This is the Locked On Big 12, Locked On Utes crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's show is brought to you by a brand new sponsor at Locked On called The Game Cap. I looked at my little tracking number. Yeah, it's on its way. It's coming like tomorrow. Quick question for college football fans out there. If you could go back in time, sit front row at your school's biggest rivalry game, what hat would you be wearing? That's right, hat. For me, it'd be The Game. I got a West Virginia Mountaineers hat. It's in the mail. It's coming tomorrow. They're not just hats. They're vintage styles, the same from the 80s and 90s. Guess what? They're the same price they were back then. When you use code LOCKED ON, get a vintage hat for $16.99. TheGamecaps.com. So where you go. Head to TheGamecaps.com. Grab your team's classic bar or retro circle design. Use code LOCKED ON for an exclusive discount because legends wear The Game. That is TheGamecaps.com. Today's show is also brought to you by Game Time. Game Time's where I go. Oh, wow. The Red Clay Strays are playing a concert a couple blocks down the road, and it starts in 30 minutes. That's the best case scenario when you have Game Time, because Game Time, last-minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed. That's where I go. Oh, Old Crow Medicine Show down at the bar locally. Yeah. That I pull up Game Time, couple taps, dude, amazing deals, and college football games or concerts as low as $25 and even lower. The app makes it very simple as well. The zone deals, pick the section, Game Time picks the seats, you save big. Faster, cheaper, less stressful. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets. Use code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, all caps, Locked On College for $20 off your first purchase. $20 off the code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time. Do it today. JT Wistrcill of Locked On Utes, TCU and North Carolina tonight. TCU just a 3.5-point favorite on the road. You don't live that far from Chapel Hill. Just a hop, skip, and a jump. You feel the palpable buzz, I'm sure, of Bill Belichick being in town and college football be rearing its teeth once again at UNC. Is there any way? I don't see a way. Is there any way that North Carolina actually does win this game?
I do, because they're at home. I think TCU will win this game. I said that on our
advantage, though. Chapel Hill like that, though? Is it that big of an advantage?
I've been to a game that, well, first of all, I do think the Belichick buzz is real, as you just mentioned. I think that's going to be a good crowd, a good atmosphere. I watched UNC take on Miami a couple years ago, and it was a good crowd. I'm not going to sit here and tell you it's BYU, Utah, whatever on a Saturday. Like, those to me are much better atmospheres, right? But I do believe there's going to be buzz. There is excitement with Bill Belichick. Yes, it's been a very weird offseason with all of the things with his girlfriend, but I also give them credit for how much they've kept insulated. Some of it to a point it's frustrating, like about this team. I feel like they've done a good job of not letting us know what's going on for them. In some ways, it's a Kyle Whittingham-esque approach because then Kyle Whittingham is throwing defensive players out there on offense. But I do like a couple of things that this UNC team has going for them. And I'm also very curious to see, like, there's some new pieces. It's college football, right? There's going to be transfer portals. So how do these players click and how quickly can they? It's by far the best quarterback on the field is Hoover. That's not a discussion. But I do think Gio Lopez is solid. He did some good things last year at South Alabama. So what does he look like? Both these teams return 3 offensive linemen up front. And let's not forget Omarion Hampton. He's not there, but 3 offensive linemen are back from that group. So I do think this is a group that will have success running the ball. There's questions at receiver for UNC. I think Stephen Belichick is a good defensive coordinator for UNC, and they have some transfers I like, but once again, how quickly do they gel? That's what makes these games very hard to predict. UNC has not a great receiving group, but while TCU has some players I think will be good, I just last night watched Nico and a bunch of the Bruins receivers who I think are solid not be able to connect because the timing's not there because it's their first ever live collegiate game. So even though Hoover, I think, to put it on the money, he might not be on the same page as some of those guys too. Still some questions about a TCU defense. I think that's adding some new pieces as well, like the linebackers and secondary, but how are they going to do with the defensive line up front against that physical North Carolina team? So I could absolutely see this being a game. I think TCU wins because of Hoover, but Drake, I don't see this being a blowout. I see it as a 10. This game's going to be within 10 to me all the way through. I think we're going to be rewarded to a really good show on Monday night.
Yeah, nearly 4,000 yards passing, 3,950 for Josh Hoover, 27 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. We could fix that. We could make that a little bit better. And a 74 QBR, 28th in the country last year. And still has a little bit of eligibility left. Like the guy's in his junior season. He could come back next year and be one of the best quarterbacks in all of college football. Now, what I do think we've learned about the Big 12 is the quarterback hype was warranted. Devin Dampier is not DeQuan Finn. He's a very good quarterback. He's electric to watch. I feel like I'm playing a video game when I watch Devin Dampier play football because I think I have the controller. I'm running out left and just weaving through defenders. Sawyer Robertson threw for 400 yards against an SEC opponent. Avery Johnson threw for 300. Has looked good despite his team looking bad. Avery Johnson hasn't necessarily been the issue. Rocco Becht, better than advertised, and he was advertised well. Sam Levitt could have been better, but wasn't. We've seen good depth in the Big 12. Jalen Daniels in that conversation as well. Does that showcase that the consistency is there across the conference enough for Josh Hoover to carry a team like TCU, no matter the run game or the defense, if those two things aren't on point?
Yeah, I think Hoover absolutely can get it done for this team because I know under duress he can make some tough throws. You know, Utah last year lost a lot more games at home than they're used to, but I do think part of the reason they lost a lot of those at homes was the quality of quarterbacks they played. Noah Fafita is another guy that I would still throw. He's not with the top guys you just mentioned, Drake, but I still think he's a good college quarterback.
He was one of those guys. He used to be with the top guys.
Yeah, he used to be one of the top guys. Then just everything's bad with Arizona now. But last year, Hoover, Rocco Becht, like those were some of the guys that went into Salt Lake City and got wins. And one of the reasons they were able to win ugly games because, well, Utah's offense was incredibly ugly. That's why it was so amazing last night. But Utah is such a place that's hard to win. The defense, the culture, all that. You need a quarterback who's going to come in, step up, and put the team on his back in some ways. And Hoover is a guy who's capable of doing that. I do expect him to have a very strong performance in this game too. I think that the TCU overall should be able to keep him upright. It's just like we talked about. I don't know exactly what UNC is going to have on the edge rushing department, but there's no one crazy elite there. I see this TCU offense having success. I think TCU deserves to be the favorite here. And this even goes back to what we were talking a little bit about earlier, Drake, with the floor being raised because of the quality of the quarterback play and what I was mentioning in the fact that you can beat a lot of these Big Ten and SEC teams to me because in a lot of those matchups, the Big 12 is going to have the best quarterback on the field, which is massive. I mean, I would be interested to see against a Texas, right? I know Texas is Texas and it was week 1 for Arch, but there's a lot of Big 12 quarterbacks that after week 1 looked better than Arch Manning did. Will he round into form? It's possible, but anytime you got the quarterback's the most important position, right? Anytime you got the best QB on the field, you got a chance to win. The Big 12 is going to have that in a lot of these games. I think they have that this weekend against UNC, and even though it's Belichick's debut, it is funny that it's them again, just like it was Colorado's debut a couple years ago for TCU, by the way. I do think this one ends differently, and I do think TCU is able to get a big win on the road and capitalize what's been a good last 2 days, excluding Friday, for the Big 12.
Can I ask you something?
Go for. Oh, I loved, by the way, you talk about Devin Dampier. Already calling him not DeQuan Finn 1 game into the season. Yes,
I loved watching him. He was really fun to watch. He moves and shakes and gyrates, and I'm like, wow, this is different. It's just this antithetical to what Cam Rising was. Not to say Cam Rising was bad, but it's just a lot different style of play. And you can tell that Beck coming in and his play calling is going to be. I thought Smith Snowden was very fun to watch too. That was not the biggest takeaway. I don't think he could be the biggest takeaway, but top 4 or 5 notes I had on Utah. I was like, wow, Smith Snowden could be a game changer, a game breaker for Utah against anybody in the Big 12 this year. Very impressed with them. That's why I have confidence for TCU going out of conference to play North Carolina. That's actually a little bit of where I want to end this. Utah fans still get the bad rap, and I like it. I like that Utah can play the heel. I like that Utah can drum up controversy in the Big 12. I enjoy, if Utah wins the Big 12 championship this year, it's great for PR for the league. It creates this just firestorm of chaos where everyone's talking about the Big 12, and in the infighting of fan bases only grows rivalries and exposure. That's a moot point. Do you feel like you feel a little chipper talking so positively about TCU in the Big 12? Utah gets the rap as the school that roots for everybody to lose out of conference. They want to go to the Big 10, and that was a big storyline last week, is that Utah is going to bolt from the conference, and I'll have more on that later this week. Does it feel weird complimenting the Big 12?
It doesn't, because, well, first of all, it's always funny just because of the rivalries we form naturally in this conference. But also, I'll just say this, we are a family in the Big 12. All these schools are. When you are coming together in the circumstances that Utah came into the conference under, and I think a lot of these teams, there is going to be, and I'll also say, Utah was the adopted child. All of a sudden, the adopted child was getting all the love last year. The children who have been in the Big 12 family for a long time did not like and appreciate that. So I think that led to a lot of animosity. And now it's like, all right, we've been with each other for a year. Utah wasn't getting as much of the hype this offseason. So I feel like it died down a little bit, even though there is still a lot of it. But yeah, I will say, Devin Dampier, even Utah's quarterback, said he wanted to go in and represent the Big 12 well, because they want to prove how good this conference is. All these teams are united. That's why I'm mad at Baylor. Baylor, I thought you guys were going to make a statement against Auburn, not make Jackson Arnold look like Cam Newton, basically. I mean, my gosh, out there running around on him, which has me very excited with how good Devin Dampier looked running the ball, by the way, for that matchup in Waco later in the season. But the Big 12 is united in trying to fight the SEC and Big 10 propaganda and prove that we do belong. College Game Day was really good yesterday, but once again, Kirk Herbstreit is talking about, I want us to get the best teams in and all these different things. And it's just what happened to not just any given Saturday, but also not just saying well, this team's in the Big 10, so then this team's in that conference, so we should just let them in. That's just, it's so frustrating to me. So that's where we are coming together. We're learning to love one another as a program overall. And I do enjoy rooting for the Big 12 in these matchups, especially because I get so sick and tired of the SEC propaganda. So we'll see how long it goes for Utah and these teams being united if Utah does take that next step. But right now, we're all rooting for each other early on, at least.
Coming up, one thing I'm not rooting for, ESPN. Their FPI has Texas at number 1, Locked On Big 12, Locked On Utes. Today's show is brought to you by Rugiet. Be Rugiet ready. Men, you have heard of Viagra, but this is different. This ups the game. Rugiet Ready 3-in-1 formula dissolves under your tongue. It's a next-gen prescription treatment, and it works on average in 15 minutes. Effects can last up to 36 hours. Over 150,000 men have already made the switch. I love it. It's completely online. Rugiet connects you with a board-certified doctor, ships your treatment discreetly to your door, and you can even read real customer reviews on their site, helping a lot of people feel more confident and present in the moment. Head to Rugiet.com/LockedOnCollege. Use code LockedOnCollege to get 15% off today. RUGIET.com/LockedOnCollege. Use promo code LockedOnCollege for 15% off. Individual results may vary with prescription treatment. Compounded drugs are permitted to be prescribed under federal law, but are not FDA approved and do not undergo FDA safety, effectiveness, or manufacturing review. Please visit the Rugiet website for full safety information. That is Rugiet. I can't. ESPN's FPI has done it again. The second that we say that ESPN has rigged this machine to somehow help the rest of the country, and it's not the Big 12, it's not the Big 10, it's not even the ACC and Clemson and Florida State, it's just the SEC. The more we are proven correct in saying that when they do moves like this. Missouri, JT, 16 Big 12 teams were in ESPN's top 20 toughest schedules in the country. In their strength of schedule metric for this season, 16 of 16 big SEC teams were in the top 20. Missouri, who is 20th in the country, 8 home games. They play 0 college football playoff teams. Alabama is in that. They weren't a college football playoff team. They have a non-conference slate that only includes Kansas as a remotely good team, and they were 20th in strength of schedule, 8 home games. And now this, ESPN's FPI, following a loss, Texas is number 1. The University of Texas Longhorns. There was Brett McMurphy posted a great joke, I thought, after Texas lost the game. It was like, well, it is the most quality loss in the country. Texas should stay number 1, right, guys? And his sarcasm turned into reality. ESPN is broken.
I mean, what are we doing? Like you said, like, why is Georgia at 2? Like, why they beat Marshall? And I know this factors in some other stuff, but just like you said, Drake, some of this stuff gets so infuriating. Also, I was just irritated by all these preseason AP polls that didn't have any Big 12 team in the top 10 when, like, year after year, say what you want about the Big 12, they almost always have a team that finishes in the top 10. We saw ASU nearly beat Texas last year, yet we come back around and it's like, oh, I think this team will be good. This team will be good. Like, yes, Tennessee played better than I thought they would against Syracuse, but Syracuse also lost everything. Like, let's wait and see how that's all going to go. Can I see Gunnar Stockton against some of the best teams in even that conference to see how they're going to do, right? Ole Miss. I mean, I still have massive questions about Ole Miss and Austin Simmons, and they have some good things going for them. USC all the way up there too. It's frustrating. I love that Utah is on there. Of course, I would have Utah over BYU on there, but hey, I'm just happy we get some Big 12 teams on there, but no one in the top 15 even. Like you said, Drake, it's just frustrating. It's the same old song and dance. Some of these teams on here are totally going to fall out to me too. Like, these teams, not just for playing each other, like a Notre Dame, Miami, but like we get Notre Dame, Miami, Notre Dame and A&M play each other again soon. We get USC is going to take on a bunch of these teams. So some of these teams are going to drop out. And like,
why? Hold on. Why is USC number 6?
I don't even know, man. I actually think USC could be solid this year, but I think having them at 6 is wild. Like, I think USC could be a top 25 team. I don't think they're 6. Like, 6 is crazy considering what happened to that team and that program last year.
And if we just ranked these teams based off their best wins, we would have Ohio State at 1. Florida State's probably in the top 10. And you start to say, well, it's kind of a broken system. Should Florida State be in the top 10 right now? Maybe, maybe not. But also, if we just give you the teams that have proven themselves the most over the course of the first 2 weeks of the season, those are the teams deserving to be in the top 10. Now, they could lose their way out, but I don't know how Arizona State's not on this list. Because if the case you're making is, well, it's based on your results last year and who you brought back in your preseason rankings, then how is Arizona State not on the list? But Alabama is at 13, and Florida State is also not in the top 25 at ESPN's FPI. It's a broken algorithm that does not make sense, that weights fake things. We think we know about college football before the ball is kicked off. We think we know Florida State will get blown out by Alabama, but the second Florida State wins, the computer can't readjust itself. Like, we all have told the computer, hey, we need you, based on what's happened in the last 10 years, to really hone in on Alabama. And they've dropped to 13. And Florida State's nowhere to be seen in the top 25. And I don't understand. Kansas, I like Kansas. They were bad last season, 5-7. They don't have a quality win this season. Fresno State, which looks better after their win against Georgia Southern, and then Kansas beat Wagner, but they're at 25. And there are still Big 12 schools that we don't see on this list that probably have a fighter's chance and deserve to be up there. And then BYU even at 17 and Utah at 19. I would struggle right now, transparently, to put BYU above Utah. Yeah, BYU looked incredible against Portland State. Utah looked incredible on the road against UCLA. Those two things are not similar. That's objective. Utah should be higher in the Big 12 right now, and that this could change in 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. That's fine. But as it sits right now, I do not get how we're at this conclusion unless you're solely looking at the offseason being heavily weighted by what the FPI does.
Why is Michigan over Iowa State? A Michigan team that struggled against New Mexico.
Didn't Ohio State just beat the number 1 team in the country?
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's It's some of the stuff like that where you just look at this list, it just it doesn't make sense. It doesn't comprehend. And it's hard to, it's like Auburn's all the way up to 16 now. Like you said, Drake, it feels like we're changing all these metrics and weighing all these different things. I just don't like how we're trying to take the games off the field and what happens. And instead, like, it gets into a popularity contest. That's what I feel like in some ways that ESPN and some of their analysts have tried to make college football of. Well, like some people, I feel like last year, I still hear people talking about like, oh, what happened in the first round last year? It's like, what happened when Tennessee went up to Ohio State? Like, I thought the takeaway from the first week is how hard it is to win on the road in a playoff atmosphere after a bye. Like, you have a week off basically too. I thought that was the takeaway. Not all of a sudden it was like, oh yeah, SMU, Indiana, they didn't belong. Like that wasn't the takeaway to me. It was like those teams deserve to be there. And if those games were at neutral sites, they would have been way better. I mean, Indiana, they gave up that big run earlier. It was an interception. That game could have been different. SMU is another team where their defense was very good. It was just Jennings sold the game. He had a rough go. To me, those are and the reason I bring those teams up is those are the cases of the Big 12, because those teams, those programs were counted out last year. That's what all the Big 12 teams are going to be as they slowly trickle up the rankings, slowly but surely. They're going to be counted out, and it's just so frustrating that you have to continue to fight this battle against the hypotheticals and these teams that haven't even really shown like what they can do. As we talked about, like Ole Miss, I mean, they have so much to replace. Jackson Dart looked pretty good in the preseason. Like, he's not there. Tennessee still has to show it to me that without Nico and and they lost a lot too, just even outside of him, right? So this is so frustrating. The fact that Texas is still at 1, some of the Texas hype was out of control. Didn't Feinbaum say he was like the best QB since Tebow?
It was awesome.
and then
Feinbaum was all over like Clemson, Texas.
Yeah.
Feinbaum had a really bad day.
And then Texas, well, I think the stat was like they're the first ever preseason AP #1 team since the last time Texas was #1 to get shut out in their first game of the season. Like that's what we're dealing with a little bit here. And yet there's still we watched that game yesterday and we're like, yep, still #1. It's maddening, Drake. And that's where you just got to really hope that the committee, they got it right when they put SMU in. If there's a couple Big 12 teams in that similar spot, I just hope that they get it right and don't try to throw Michigan in just because of that M.
You know what? It's kind of sad, but it makes me realize we do need humans in the room. That we can't trust the computer. We have to have the human, and it makes me almost
humans are doing stuff to those computers too. That's part of the problem, right?
Yeah. Well, the BCS looks better and better every year, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. Just that algorithm, something about the BCS algorithm, and it didn't release until week 10 or whatever it was. It looks better and better every year. You go, wow. By and large, they kind of got a lot right compared to FPI or Torvik or Massey or even the human committee. Looking back, we got our national champion most years. I think we saw the national champion most seasons. You could argue that with Ohio State in 2014, kind of breaking that mold. But yeah, I think FPI, we can kill it with fire and burn it and everything. JT Wistrcill, where can folks find more of your work?
You guys can head over to Locked On Utes on YouTube Monday through Friday, as well as on X at Locked On Utes at JT Wistrcill, talking all things Utes and all things Drake's new favorite player in the Big 12, Devin Dampier.
I love him. He's good, and I do love him. Brand new look, Locked On Big 12, the rebrand this week. Going with a little more conference affiliation, the black and white as the conference moves, as does our show. This has been It Always Will Be Locked On. Thank you for making our shows your first listen every single day. It's a crossover with Utes and Dose Grande.